So my head was just about to hit the pillow. In fact, it was already on the pillow, and I was about to close the eyes for the night, and was hit with this less than a bombshell. Just some significant news, though. So we thought we should go live, and instead of cutting a video and going through the news that broke after midnight Eastern time, that we would just go live, make it easier for all of us just to go through the news together concerning Kirk Ferentz and John Budmayr. Welcome to the Voice of College Football Iowa. Of course, we go live each and every Tuesday with you and with Corey Brada from the Hawkeye of the Storm. So make that an appointment each and every Tuesday, 4:30 Central Time. All right, so here we are at after 1 a.m. Eastern Time, and it is 1:46 a.m. Eastern Time, and we've got an early show tomorrow. So we just want to get to the festivities. Yes, we will get to the news right now. I am checking out the live chat there, and certainly if there's for any reason you would like to call and have any information and any type of perspective on this, but I believe this is short and sweet at this point until we find out necessarily the details concerning the recruiting violations. But the story, according to ESPN, currently reads this way. Iowa coach Kirk Ferentz and assistant John Budmayr will be suspended one game for a violation related to the recruitment of transfer quarterback Cade McNamara, according to multiple reports. Ferentz is the nation's longest tenured FBS coach, having led Iowa since the 1999 season. Budmayr serves as the team's wide receivers coach after working as a special assistant to Ferentz in 2023 as also an assistant analyst on the offense in 2022. According to media reports, the suspensions are related to an NCAA investigation. Iowa is set to open the season August 31st at home against Illinois State. Ferentz is scheduled to speak with reporters Thursday afternoon to wrap up preseason training camp. The Athletic first reported the suspensions for Ferentz and Budmayr. So Kirk Ferentz scheduled to meet with the media Thursday afternoon, so just here in about 12 hours. And obviously, he's going to have to address this unless they cancel that session. But I can't imagine that that's necessarily going to happen. We shall see if he, in fact, does meet still with the media and takes on these questions, because this will have been official by then, you would think. McNamara committed to Iowa on December 1st of 2022, just 3 days after entering the portal as a graduate transfer. Take that for what you will. We've seen that elsewhere, but it is fairly uncommon that somebody enters the portal and they are committed within 3 days. So what that speaks to is possible, I'm conjecturing here, possible tampering, because they're not supposed to have communication with that particular athlete until they actually enter the transfer portal. McNamara started for Michigan in 2021 as the team won the Big Ten and reached the college football playoff, but sustained a season-ending leg injury in his third game of the 22 season. McNamara had battled injuries throughout his time at Iowa, but opened the 2023 season as the team's starter. Although Ferentz announced in July that McNamara was the team's starter, McNamara and Northwestern transfer Brendan Sullivan has been competing for the job in camp. Budmayr, a former Wisconsin quarterback, was offensive coordinator at Colorado State in 2021 before joining the Iowa staff. So Budmayr suspended, Ferentz suspended. You got to think that since it involves, of course, Cade McNamara's recruitment, that, of course, Budmayr would be the main contact of Cade McNamara during said recruitment. And again, the 3-day gap between the entering of the transfer portal and the signing to Iowa is rather suspicious. So this happened, let's see, in December of 2022. So we're looking at more than a year and a half. So you wonder what type of information was relayed to the NCAA concerning this situation, because here we are a year and 10 months later, and we now finally hear about this. So typically the NCAA works on these cases and investigates these cases because of what? Because there is a particular entity who has squealed on another entity, not because they find this stuff out because of their reviews of situations. All right, we got a call coming in from Nate. Nate, welcome to the Voice of College Football.
How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I got you. Thanks for being here. Appreciate your call.
Fantastic. Apologies for not being on camera. It's just a little late.
Oh, that's fine.
So I wanted to call in because this is an unusual situation. I got a couple of buddies. I'm here in Des Moines, Iowa. I got a couple of buddies who work out in Iowa City writing for various papers. And so I usually get information about these kind of things a little bit ahead of time. I just called him about a half an hour ago. There was no indication this was coming. And the strange part about it is this is clearly leaked intentionally. I mean, that's just how anything gets out.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily in a bad way or anything like that, right? Like they're just trying to get the news out ahead of time, say a press conference is coming. But it's kind of hard for me to believe, just my intuitive understanding, that he randomly self-reported this kind of allegation a year and a half later after this happened. So that's all I wanted to say is this is an unusual situation. I thought it's not really going to affect the Hawkeyes because I could coach them against Illinois State and they're probably going to win, but it's unusual to say the least.
Yeah. So the last statement I made before I took your call was basically the history of the NCAA is following up on leads given to them by rival schools. So would you think that that would be the impetus of this investigation?
It could be. I mean, if you've ever listened to any news outlet in your space, the only thing they say is the NCAA is incompetent, right? Which means maybe a year and a half later is when they follow up. But typically I have heard about these kind of things ahead of time. So and this sort of just came out of the blue. So that's what struck me. I think, especially when you're just close to home and you got people in the organization, I really had no idea about this, and so I was struck. I wanted to hear what you had to say about it because I feel like I'm in the dark too.
Well, I'm in the dark too. So I just simply read the article, and the only two pieces of information that we have there are basically it's Ferentz and Budmayr. It involves McNamara's recruitment, and obviously just recanting the timeline of the suspicion of the just 3 days between McNamara hitting the portal and then signing with Iowa. And even at the time, we talked about that being just a bit suspicious.
Yeah, and they self-reported for Caden Proctor, if you remember as well. So I mean, they've done this in the past, but that was also fairly swift. Remember when they reported for
Yep.
Caden Proctor? We found out immediately, but we're also expected to simultaneously believe. What did they? Did an intern have it on his desk, and suddenly he forgot the piece of paper? Oh, they found it a year later. I don't know. It's just strange to me.
Yeah, it doesn't. Strange is a great word because I think it speaks to more, yes, lack of administrative tasks being checked off than it does something unsavory. It's much more, at least based on what we see here and what we know of the program, to again be a bookkeeping, administrative, clerical issue with somebody miscommunicating and not going through all the proper channels and procedures, rather than again them being unsavory in some type of recruiting effort to get Cade McNamara.
Certainly, and this obviously is a minor infraction.
Yeah.
We already know the details about it. I mean, this could be the famous Jim Harbaugh buying someone a cheeseburger. I don't know, but it's just strange to me, and it's almost like we've got a couple of days left before the first games happen, so let's just do the news now. Like this is ESPN's got a couple of days left. They got to get something out in the papers. So I don't know. I'm not sure it really means anything, but I'll be interested to hear what they actually did to get a 1-game suspension because that is not a serious suspension at all.
Yeah, us doing this live stream in reporting this news, I don't want to miscommunicate that I believe that it's anything serious. It was just simply that I thought, okay, this is news. We've got an Iowa channel. The best way to get this out in the most immediate way is just to do a live stream, read the story as we have it. We don't have a lot of details past that, and just to get it out there. So the urgency was more so than the immediacy, being because it was or appears to be severe. So I don't want anyone to misread that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that. Totally agree. It's more funny that it's Kirk Ferentz, the most by the book guy I've ever met in my
Yeah.
life. So, like, that guy getting suspended is almost sort of just comical, I would say.
Yeah, and the rules concerning, well, of course, the NIL more so than the transfer portal, but also the transfer portal being loosened as much as they have, it's becoming more and more difficult to even break these rules because they're so non-restrictive this day
Yeah.
and age.
Yeah, and that's what when you said strange is a good word for this. That's why I was confused because, one text to Caden Proctor was an immediate problem. But suddenly, a year and a half later, like I said, did an intern bury this document? It doesn't really make any sense why he would be getting a game suspension, or he had an epiphany. Oh, I shouldn't have sent that text, or I shouldn't have bought that cheeseburger, or whatever. Because if it was a serious suspension, 4 to 6 games, something Harbaugh-ish, where you got some guy sitting on the sidelines, that's a serious deal. But a one game for Illinois State, it's just, I don't know. It's just very strange to me.
Yeah, so they obviously, this isn't a situation in which we found out, and this has been pretty airtight, which also leads us to believe that this all came to be very quickly.
Yeah, agreed.
It's not like we found out, okay, the NCAA is investigating Iowa concerning recruiting violations, and then we got to wait for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and then finally we get the details. We got the details. We didn't get the details. We got the result. We got the penalty and the discipline, and so we got it all in one fell swoop. That doesn't typically happen.
No, it like it says. I mean, I'm reading your screen right now. Recruitment of transfer quarterback Cade McNamara. So somebody told ESPN, "Hey, this is what's happening, and this is why," which means they know what it is.
Yeah, and that it's
Yeah,
already been reviewed, investigated, reviewed, and determined what the penalty should be
yeah,
before anyone knew about it.
that's exactly right. I don't know how they did such a good job. I mean, seriously, it's like a bravo, clap your hands kind of moment because that is really tight-lipped. If they've been investigating that, again, it could be a really minor you slap on the wrist kind of thing, and we never think about it again. We probably forget about it, but it's just strange to me because I remember a couple of times with Iowa before where the moment something happens, it's just immediate news. It's not a year and a half, tight-lipped investigation. And so if it had been, one of their Brendan Sullivan, someone they just brought in this year, I'd say, okay, that makes a lot of sense. They just brought him in. But Cade McNamara, like, what could possibly have arisen unless Cade, accidentally told something he shouldn't have told someone, or it's just strange.
Yeah, I used the word tampering earlier. Uh, I shouldn't have necessarily gone there. I was speculating based on the 3-day window of
Sure.
time. I certainly don't want to jump to conclusions, but there is a connection that could be made there. It's not necessarily going to be the case, but I would think that. I don't know how they would treat tampering. I don't know that we've seen, even though we know of instances of tampering. We know that it's happened all over the place, but we know about specific ones that are pretty well, I don't want to say documented, but it's been pretty clearly defined in other situations that I can think of that there was tampering, but it wasn't necessarily dealt with by the NCAA. So I don't know how much they would harshly they would deal with a tampering situation.
No, I'm not sure anybody knows the answer to that
Yeah.
question. There are lawyers who don't know the answer to that question. So I don't think you or our speculation is particularly useful on that one, to be honest. But
yeah, just to throw out a situation or a scenario that there was tampering, but it was reviewed to be fairly innocent in a way that the window opened at midnight and there were some texting a couple hours prior to, or something like that.
11:59 would be perfect. Yeah.
So, yeah, Illinois State game number 1. So Iowa not playing one of these titanic week 1 matchups, as is typically the Iowa approach to scheduling. And it certainly pays off here.
Yes. Yeah. No, I mean, I won't get into that with you because you've already done a bunch of great shows on that. But yeah, that's kind of what's so funny about this is it's unusual in the fact that multiple other things that have happened to them, betting scandals, the racism scandal, Caden Proctor, they all broke immediately. It was not a year and a half later or something. I mean, as soon as somebody reported it, it was out. So that's why this Cade one to me strikes a little unusual. But also, I mean, I do mean this. I think you or I could coach this team to beat Illinois State with that defense. So not sure this is a meaningful suspension, but I do appreciate your time on. I don't want to take up all your time, but thank you for taking my call here, Mark.
Thank you so much for the information, Nate, and the perspective. Thank you for the call.
Yep. Have a great one. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye. Nate Fennelly with a very informative call for us and a perspective from a news background. I would think, I'm going to take a shot here, that Phil Parker would be called upon to be the head coach. I would think. I might be wrong about that. Maybe they would want to keep Phil Parker focused on the defense, and maybe LeVar Woods could possibly be the head coach. So Phil Parker, LeVar Woods, if Tim Lester obviously has the most recent head coaching experience at a fairly high level with Western Michigan, so they certainly have some options there. You know, we saw this situation just a year ago with Michigan where they had 3. There we go. Thank you so much for that. Llama Power Hawkeye. That's the name I was looking for. Seth Wallace is the linebackers coach, and I believe co-defensive coordinator. What's his exact? In addition to linebackers, I guess it's just assistant to the head coach. Thank you. That's actually the name that was in the back of my mind as I was weeding through LeVar Woods. I was thinking, yes, they do have somebody that is in place to be assistant head coach. Very good there. Thank you for picking me up on that one. Yeah, so they've got their bases covered from that perspective. Tim Lester, I think that's a tremendous hire. We've covered that exclusive in a number of ways for a long time here during the off season. And Phil Parker, just leave him alone to do what he does best. There you go. Seth Wallace, assistant head coach. Bingo. All right. Very good. Again, not necessarily anything here that we need to review. I think that it's pretty clear cut in regards to what we're dealing with in terms of what the issue is, in what category. It's a recruiting violation concerning Cade McNamara, concerning his entry into the transfer portal. And then we've got, bam, the conclusion of the verdict being the 1-game suspensions to Kirk Ferentz and John Budmayr. It's just, what are the details concerning this recruitment, and what did they do that was in violation of the rules? Got our buddy Brennan ready to say something to us, I believe. Brennan, you here?
I'm here, man. I lost you for a second. I might have like 27 windows open right now, so let me delete a couple. What's going on, man? Are you pumped up for the college football season?
I am pumped up for the college football season. I would rather be in bed right now, but I saw this pop up, so we thought that we would address this immediately.
Well, so are you just on the Iowa State channel or iOS
Yes,
channel?
we were just on the Iowa channel.
Okay,
That's
cool.
it. Just dealing with
Cool.
the suspension here that's been handed down as of 1:20 Eastern time, 1:20 a.m.
Well, that's pretty cool. So, I just popped on here. Not a lot of people, yeah, are going to hear. It's not the main channel, but I wanted to make a bet with you, sir.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, what I want to do, I want
Can't
to
wait
bet
to
you
hear this.
$1.
Yes.
Okay, that when we go on the Slob Olympics cruise, that we're going to let the fans vote and do all that, but we are going to compete in Elvis karaoke. So I'm going to bet you $1 that I win.
Well, being an Elvis fan and being capable of Elvis impersonation, that doesn't necessarily equate. So why would you think that I would be a worthy opponent?
Well, I don't. I mean, nobody would ever be a worthy opponent of me, but that's why I'm only betting $1 because I don't
Oh,
like taking big money from my friends,
okay. All right. Well, I'll take you up on that. I
All
may
right.
be a fool. I may be parting with my final dollar by the time we get to that cruise, but I'm going to do it anyway. I would like to, supply some comedic relief for the crew there.
Well, I think we got that. I think we got that under control. We're going to get a lot of comedic relief, and I'm betting you $1 right now. I'm laying down the gauntlet, my friend. I'm laying it down right there in front of you. If you need me to go down here and talk like one of those wrestlers or something like that, but I don't think we need to go into any of that. But yeah, as a fellow Elvis fan, I challenge thee. All right, Mark. Love you, brother.
Thanks, man.
Everybody
Appreciate
out
you
there
being here.
heard that. So
Thanks, TF.
love you, brother. We'll
Have
see
a
you
good
later.
one. All right, little diversion from the Iowa story there, but we appreciate TF being here. Okay, Bradley says, I just got here late. Can you go over any details again, please? So the details are pretty clear. There was a recruiting violation concerning Kirk Ferentz, John Budmayr. Of course, Kirk Ferentz is the leader of the program. So he is going to be one that's going to be tagged with regardless of who else is involved. But the recruitment of Cade McNamara apparently involved John Budmayr. I don't know that we knew that at the time. That's something that I'm sure Corey's all over. But in regards to my knowledge of Cade McNamara's recruitment, it lasted all of 3 days. So I even said that at the time that appeared to be somewhat suspicious. Not that I questioned it to a hilt or accused anyone of anything in violation of recruiting guidelines, but when a player enters the transfer portal that would appear to have options and then he closes a deal within 3 days, that seems a bit suspicious. So we don't know if that has anything to do with it. So these are the facts right now, Bradley and everybody else. The facts are simply that number one, Kirk Ferentz and John Budmayr have been suspended for 1 game. We would assume that would be the Illinois State game for violation related to the recruitment of transfer quarterback Cade McNamara, who, of course, in December of 2022, signed with Iowa just 3 days after entering the transfer portal. And I think there was another piece of information in there. Well, Kirk Ferentz is scheduled to speak with the media Thursday afternoon. Aside from this issue, just to close out preseason training camp, The Athletic was the first to report the suspensions. And again, here we are. And Seth Wallace, we would believe, would be in line, as everyone has noted and straightened me out on. Yes, Seth Wallace was the name I was searching for to be the man on the sideline calling the shots as the interim head coach. And again, a year ago, we saw Michigan have to deal with this for 3 consecutive games, and they went offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and special teams coordinator for the 3 games. But of course, Iowa already has that in place. All right, folks. We do appreciate you being here. I don't see anything necessarily in the chat that needs to be covered. I am sure that Corey Bratta will be all over this and will provide some further expected perspective way beyond anything that I can do right now. And again, the category of violation, we know the people involved. Budmayr recruiting McNamara, Ferentz, the head of the program, and we know the result of the investigation. If you heard my communication, the conversation with the first caller, what's interesting is that we typically get word because it leaks out that there's an NCAA investigation, or maybe they announce there's an investigation. And so we know for a period of time that said school is being investigated. And then we've got to wait. And there's speculation concerning what, and they usually give us maybe a one-liner. We know that it's involving, let's say, recruiting. And generally then we find out what the dates are that the violations took place, and information gets leaked little by little during an investigation period. Here we just get nailed all of a sudden out of nowhere with, there was an investigation that was ongoing. Nobody knew about it. I don't know if it lasted a day or 6 months or since December of 2022, but man, that was ironclad and kept under lock and key, certainly, because it didn't come to light and nobody found out about it. So the NCAA went ahead with an investigation and made a determination on the penalties without anyone knowing about it. How about that? If somebody can recall when that's ever happened, please let me know. Again, from the Hawkeye of the Storm's a great place to be with Corey Bratta. I'm sure he will expound upon this in much greater detail on Thursday. We've got a Thursday prediction show live on the main national channel. So that's Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. Central Time for all of you with our prediction show, including the Hawkeyes. Will they win the Big Ten? Will they go to the college football playoff? Will they win 10 games? We'll find out on our prediction show, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 Central, over on the national channel. Appreciate everyone staying up late with us. We thought that would be the best way to attack this breaking story. And again, I don't want the immediacy and the urgency of the live stream to in any way lead you to believe that this is severe or damning in any way. It is a 1-game suspension for Kirk Ferentz and John Budmayr. All right. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. We'll see you next Tuesday, of course, for the Hawkeyes live show with Corey Bratta. That's next Tuesday at 4:30 Central. See you then. And we will see you later today, Thursday, for the Big Predictions special at 8 p.m. Central. Thanks for showing up.